Now at the kitchen table, I have Abi Mordin from Propagate, and you've been an activist, grower and facilitator for over 30 years. And last night I found out that you were also a DJ.
Yeah, also been doing that for over 30 years,
Oh,
since the 90s. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
And can you just explain a little bit about what your work involves?
So I guess I've always been passionate about environmental justice and social justice. My life started growing up with activist parents, and in the 90s I lived in sort of tree houses and defended land from road building and open cast mines. And so I've always been kind of like involved in environmental activism in different ways, and food increasingly became, I guess, that the intersection between environmental justice and social justice. And then Propagate was born in 2016, off the back of a couple of decades of me doing kind of different types of food, community food, food policy, urban food, rural food, cooperative farming, market gardening, all sorts of different things. And Propagate was born as a way to bring all that together in one space and one place. So it's really hard to pin down what I do because it's a kind of food systems approach.
Yeah.
So on one hand, I'm a small farmer. I have 10 acres. I run a market garden, and I've got 2 cows. The cows are for healthy land and healthy livestock, and they will be for healthy cheese. That's the plan, anyway. I'm an educator, so I run a lot of sort of grassroots sort of courses and workshops. So, for example, recently I was running a session on composting and sort of mulches and green manures, that kind of thing. I'm an organiser. I organise the Regenerative Farming Network in Scotland, which started as a cluster of 20 farmers, and is now a network of about 300 farmers, mainly in southwest Scotland, and at all stages of their regenerative journeys. And we have a lot of knowledge sharing activities like farm walks and kind of ways to encourage people to kind of nudge towards more regenerative, more nature-friendly farming practices. I coordinate the Dumfries and Galloway Sustainable Food Partnership, so I'm involved in kind of regional food policy kind of work and bringing the local authority and the health board together with farmers and food businesses and looking at how we kind of encourage a more sustainable local food economy. And I co-founded and I'm a director for the Galloway Food Hub, which is a way for producers, regenerative and nature-friendly producers and organic producers to get their amazing produce to sort of a remote rural part of Scotland. So we kind of have, we deliver sort of food boxes across a 60-mile radius.
Yeah, because I have a friend who's in Gatehouse, and I'm aware that you deliver over there.
Yeah, we have collection points. Mm-hmm. So, it's a food systems approach, I suppose, to tackling environmental justice and social justice issues.
So it's like you're creating your own food system, like food system at a micro level.
Yeah.
Or not even a micro level, a kind of medium-sized level, really.
It started really wee. So the food hub particularly, that started as with 7 of us. We all already had our open food network shops. I was going to the local producer markets, but it was a bit rubbish. Dumfries and Galloway is a remote rural community with 2,700 square miles of 150,000 people. So you do the math. That is not a lot of people over a huge region. So there's loads of producer markets, and it's not great footfall. And if you're a vegetable producer, you have to harvest a lot to make your store look amazing. And if people don't come, that isn't all sold. It's basically compost or animal food. So margins are slim enough on veg as it is. I wasn't making any money. You don't get paid for your time. Great way to kind of get your face out there. So the food hub became a solution to enable some of us to get our produce, to kind of local people without having to go to the producer markets, and because people pre-order. You only harvest or pick or pull out the freezer if you're a meat producer or whatever, what people have ordered, so there's no waste. And it's just grown from there. It's grown from kind of 7 producers delivering to to like a few villages, to 33 producers delivering across 60 miles.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to get any bigger. I think that's probably big
You've
enough.
got everybody
I would
now
like
in
to
the
encourage other food hubs, and stop waving to you around. I'd like to encourage other food hubs to kind of form in their little sort of medium, not quite micro regions, but regions in Dumfries and Galloway, and then a bit like Tame Agro Local.
Yes.
We can loop them together
Yeah.
rather than kind of one food hub trying to take over the whole thing. That's kind of so I'm working with a few groups who are sort of facilitating a sort of process of trying to get them to
Right.
work out how they can do that. Yeah.
So that's the next step. And I know you're speaking, is it tomorrow? You're speaking about the Procurement for Good project,
Yeah.
which is exploring how agroecological farmers and growers can access public contracts.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
A little bit that, yeah. So, like I said, I'm coordinator for the Dumfries and Galloway Sustainable Food Partnership. That, like all sustainable food partnerships, is part of the Sustainable Food Places side of family. So that has meant the last sort of 5 years of relationship building, and getting to know colleagues and sort of key officers within the local authority, within the health board, gaining trust, chipping away at the kind of, I guess, what then quite an entrenched mindset of we can't. You get this is like, oh, we can't do that, we can't do. Oh, yeah, that sounds great, but we can't because. So gradual chipping away at sort of, well, how about we can? How about we try this? And then the Procurement for Good project, which is being led by Coventry University at Centre for Agroecology, Water and Resilience, and they approached us. Well, Nick from Food Network approached us and said, would we like to be a partner in this, along with Richard, who is in Wales, and the Better Food Shed in London, and the other one's Cambridge. So we're kind of like 4 satellite food hubs that are kind of looking at how we could use that as a vehicle to enable our public sector colleagues to kind of access produce from small local producers, because quite often those contracts are just not available to kind of small producers like us. So it would mean that the food hub basically dealt with the admin essentially, and the contracts, and the sort of dealing with the with procurement officers rather than producers having to do that work. So we're not there yet, but I'm hopeful that within a couple of years we'll have a couple of trials where we're at least doing something like, we've got a group of growers together, we're producing, let's say, I don't know, broccoli, because that's used in a lot of school meals. And we're working with a few, a sort of cluster of schools to sort of, as a pilot, to show what can be done, and then look at how we can roll that out.
Because it feels like a no-brainer, doesn't it? It feels like, of course that should be happening. What's actually stopping it happening?
Money.
Always.
It's usually what's stopping it. So, producers want a decent return on their produce. So, even myself as a small producer, while the guarantee of a public sector contract would be amazing, they are not going to pay as well as, Mrs. McCormick in Dalray, who's quite happy to pay £2.20 for a bag of salad. But yeah, the local authority's not going to do that. So yeah, that's got to be addressed somehow, with a bigger budget. So I mean, there's like what we can do at the grassroots level, and then there's what needs to happen at kind of policies and statutory kind of levels. So in Scotland, we've got the Good Food Nation, which is a kind of new, it's not so new act now. Good Food Nation Act was passed in 2022. We should have had, but we have now, as of last week, that we have the National Good Food Nation Plan, which has been laid before MSPs. They've got until probably October to kind of scrutinise Good Food Nation Plan, and then we'll have regional Good Food Nation plans that every local authority and every health board will have to write. So there's lots of opportunity to kind of use policy mechanisms to shift this. But there's so many barriers. There's contracts, barriers, frameworks.
So even in Scotland, you're finding that still. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So NHS, for example, the NHS, every health board orders their food through one central purchasing system point. So that's basically a department that's based in Stirling. It all goes through one person. So Gijo, who works for NHS, is a procurement manager for NHS Dumfries and Galloway. He places an order, it goes to central purchasing, then it comes back down to him, and it's like he doesn't have the autonomy.
No.
There's the frameworks are too rigid. The systems are not flexible.
I know feels like it would be easy just to start again from scratch because it's fighting the system that's already there, isn't it?
Yeah. The system is broken, so you rip it up and start again. The schools have a bit more flexibility, so I think this is sort of quite different to England, Wales. In Scotland, almost every school meal provision is done by the local authority. There's very little that's contracted out. So they've got some more flexibility, but they still have certain suppliers that they're meant to be using, and the criteria for assessing the contracts doesn't look at sustainability or localness, because that seems it's somehow an unfair advantage to kind of prioritize a local producer. Yes, it's broken. It is broken.
Yes, very much so. And just you're also involved in the bridging the gap. How does that kind of fit into?
Well, I'm less involved in that, to be honest. I'm really interested in what they've been doing.
Right.
So it's really interesting projects been happening up in Aberdeen City, working with a farmer in Aberdeenshire to produce huge amounts of peas that are then going into schools in Aberdeen City. That's been run as a pilot. You can call anything a pilot and make it happen, it seems. But it also takes it takes a whole group. So you look at the video for that, which is really inspiring. It takes the procurement managers, the farmer, the children, the catering staff in the schools. I mean, everybody getting on board and going, we can do this rather than we can't do this. But yeah, we're kind of. I would like to get more involved in the next phase of bridging the gap, but it's had a focus on urban environments rather than but Cloran is on the panel with us tomorrow, so they'll be speaking about that project on the panel.
And I just wanted to ask as well, because we are in the Soil Association tent.
Yeah.
Is there an appetite for organic produce in Dumfries and Galloway?
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah. So we don't stipulate organic on the food hub. We ask people to kind of, ask the producers to have to sort of self-assess against the regenerative criteria. But if they are organic, that's an instant tick. So we do have a number of organic producers. So Kylie at Barnbarrow Organic, they're a beef producer. They've been organic since 1980s. I think it was like you and her stepdad, father-in-law that kind of made that conversion. One of the earliest organic farms in Scotland. So they're mainly Galloway cattle they've got there. And then Ruth, she's Lowolga farm, so she produces pork and lamb and eggs. And, she's fully certified organic. I guess for those of us that are small vegetable producers, there are still barriers around, getting organic certification, which I think there's work in progress to address that, at least at Soil Association level, and maybe through SOPA as well, which is the Scottish Organic Producers Association. So yes, we kind of demonstrate that we're farming to organic standards. And in terms of the customer uptake, there's definitely people who are prepared to pay the sort of the additional cost of organic production.
So this is maybe work in progress by the sound of it.
I'm not sure that the local authority are ever going to particularly come on board with that, but
it's a challenge for you.
Level,
you like a challenge.
I do, but definitely households are up for it. And then alongside that, we've got education work and loads of outreach and good food conversations that we're holding, and local food gatherings that we've pulled together, and ways that like citizens and ordinary people and school children can kind of engage with the kind of work that we're doing, and that encourages people to kind of think more about what they're eating and where it's coming from. So the session that I just sort of came from was in the soil tent, and that was talking about nutrition and health and how things are produced and the benefits that has, that kind of thing, like the bionutrient sort of stuff. And yeah, this is also a no-brainer, but again, people just don't know about it. So it's kind of trying to sort of encourage people to think about what they're eating, how they're eating, how it's produced, and that in turn helps build up the customer base of the food hub and helps to grow a local food economy.
And just lastly, if you were to imagine or reimagine food, public food procurement from the ground up,
Wow.
how would it look? Because we just talked about like what the challenges are. Like, what ideally, how would you like it to look?
Like rip it up and start again, kind of thing. So, oh god, there's so many different levels to that. How to unpick it. So we need the production first. We need enough production across, and I think this is like what is the scale, region wide. So if we're looking at Dumfries and Galloway, for example, like we're not a big vegetable producing region. We have a lot of a lot of hill grounds. We have a lot of cows and sheep. But in the more east of the region, in the Scottish borders, big arable, nice deep soils. There could be a lot more vegetable production there. So we could take a kind of like south of Scotland approach, for example, and different regions could do this in different ways. To kind of try and look at what is being produced, encourage and incentivize, subsidize, increase production of what is being used in hospitals and schools, change those menus to reflect that, increase the budgets. I think more communication and collective working between catering staff, people actually cooking the food, preparing the food, and the children who are eating the food, and the patients in hospitals are eating the food, with farmers, with land managers, kind of working collectively to sort of co-design menus. And then, like I said, the increased budget to actually make all that happen in the first place. You got to do it as if it's happening.
Yes.
Because that's where you can't just kind of go, but try and get all the ducks in a row before you make it happen.
Yeah.
No, just get on with it.
Yeah.
Just get on with it.
Which you are doing.
Yeah. And I'll try to anyway. And I guess about the supply chain side of that, the infrastructure, like distribution hubs, like a network of distribution hubs, and joined up logistics and infrastructure, kind of all of that. And a radical rethink of what is actually healthy. We've got this like limit on red meat consumption in schools, which is it's looking at like how that meat is produced and what's going into it. This is a rhetoric that red meat causes cancer. It's like, can we move on? Change the story.
It's like there's so many conversations we could be having here. It's a massive area to really. And all respect to you, you're doing a little bit of everything along the way, which is fantastic. So thank you very much, Abi. That's been great.
Nice to chat to you.